over 50% of the population now has either a food allergy, is on a diet, or has a nutritional need that impacts their choices when dining out. That's a lot of unanswered questions, and a lot of revenue left on the table. Today's ordering experience makes it difficult for consumers to find the right food for them. That's where Foodini comes in. We start with whatever data you have: menu, recipes, ingredients, and product spec sheets, pulled right from inventory management systems or manual documents. Our engine drills from menu to dishes, then the products and ingredients in those dishes. And we go further to get the sub-ingredients in those products so nothing is missed. Dietary AI tags every allergen and dietary need in seconds, then registered dietitians verify the edge cases. You get AI speed plus human accuracy. The result? A personalized menu with accurate dietary information everywhere customers order, whether that's in the restaurant, ordering online, via kiosk, or a delivery platform. Simple integration options via direct link or API means existing systems work exactly as before, just with the data your customers need. Attract more guests, capture valuable customer data, let your menu be the expert, and reduce the risk of a mistake. Turn dietary chaos into a competitive advantage. Integrate dietary intelligence to deliver a truly personalized experience for all guests.
Welcome to the Eat Your Content podcast. I'm your host, Rich Herrera. This is your podcast for all things food and pop culture. Thank you for tuning in. Just a reminder to follow me on socials at Rich Herrera and at Eat Your Content on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X, and anywhere else you get your social media. Also, like and subscribe on your podcast player of choice so you'll know when new episodes are dropping. On today's show, I am continuing a series on food and AI. There's nothing permeating pop culture more than AI. And why not food? So with me today is Dylan McDonnell. He is the founder of Foodini, an app that makes eating out a little safer for folks, I think is the best way to describe it. When you go out to eat, it can, for some people that have food allergies, it can be a little bit of playing Russian roulette. Dylan McDonnell is here to solve that problem. Dylan, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Not at all, Rich. Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, so I kind of want to get a little bit of your background and food. This is kind of in the realm of food safety, but you're taking a more technical side of things. But you started out as a lawyer. When did the shift become being a lawyer to this app that helps people find a safe way to eat, go out and eat restaurant food and not possibly have an allergic reaction? Was there a moment for you that maybe had that happen to you and you saw a need?
Yeah, so I suppose my quick backstory, as you can probably tell from my accent, Irish, although I was born in Philly, just to complicate things a little more, but grew up in Ireland, as you said, corporate lawyer by trade and worked in big law for a number of years. That journey took me to Australia, and I lived in Sydney for a number of years as well. And it was while I was there that I initially came up with the idea for and started the company. And to your point, or like where it stemmed from, I was diagnosed celiac when I was 10 years old, so have to follow a gluten-free diet. That was after a few years of being quite sick. Like this is back, 20 plus years ago, before this was kind of as well known as it is now. Doctors weren't sure what was wrong with me, blah, 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 blah. But eventually figured it out, got diagnosed, and have been on a gluten-free diet ever since. But eating at home, fine. Generally speaking, eating out, nightmare. And I think it was a combination of, I don't think there was one standalone incident per se. I think it was a culmination of 20 plus years of every few months misinformation in a restaurant, getting served the wrong dish, getting someone, a wait staff saying, I think this is, when you get that dreaded I think, you're in trouble, because then they definitely don't know. And just a combination of incidents that led me to be like, there has to be a better way. Like, it doesn't make sense. Why is it so difficult for me to just get simple transparency as to what is in the food? And then the kind of aha moment was when I dug into, you kind of think you're in your own little world, right? You're like, I'm gluten free, maybe a few other people, but how big is this really? Then I dug into the numbers in the US. 33 million Americans with a diagnosed food allergy. Blew my mind. I was like, 1 in 10. And then another 50 million Americans with a food intolerance, meaning that, they're not allergic per se, but they react negatively to food. Then another 70 million Americans who fall into your preference. You're vegan, you're vegetarian, you're keto, you're paleo, you're low FODMAP, you're low carb. And so I just couldn't understand how there was such a big market for, let's call it, ingredient transparency, but just such a lack of data that could power that type of experience. And so I spent a few months kind of still as a lawyer, like doing all this research, talking to consumers, talking to people in the restaurant world to try and educate myself as to why this was the case and if this was a problem that could be solved and should be solved. And once I kind of got the conviction that I believed that this was a cause that needed to be, someone spent some time working on, I took the leap and yeah, found myself um, deep in the world of food allergies, dietary needs, and restaurant menu schemas, which I had not thought earlier in my career would be working on.
Yeah. So when you were developing this, as all entrepreneurs do, you go out and kind of study what's out there, right? I don't have a lot of food. I don't have any food allergies, so I'm not privy to this world, and so my focus, I don't go out looking for apps like this. So was there anything out in the market before Foodini, and did you realize that this is definitely a niche you could fill, or what was some of the competition that you thought was falling short? Not to name names, but where did you see some apps like this maybe falling short that your app can fill?
Yeah, I'll answer that question and I'll also kind of say why, right? Because so firstly, there were other consumer discovery apps like I can say Find Me Gluten Free, Happy Cow. There, apps where it's peer reviews. So essentially, other people with dietary needs or food allergies or gluten free, it's like a community where they would leave reviews on a restaurant specifically around gluten free, so that other consumers could get the value of that anecdotal review. And like, don't get me wrong, I like this is valuable, right? Anything is better than nothing, and this is what the community has had to rely on is word of mouth or reviews from other people. But I was looking at it and was like, the restaurant or the food industry is inputting nothing here. This is fully consumer. It's fully word of mouth. This item could have been gluten free yesterday, but tomorrow they could change the recipe and it's not gluten free anymore, and so that information is no longer valid. Like, there's no actual data backing up this information other than the review. Um, but what I've learned as I've kind of dug into this world is I have massive empathy for the restaurants and the food service, industry holistically, who by and large, they want to provide this kind of transparency and information to consumers. But the problem is the data layer doesn't exist. There is no magic pot of data that you can just say, oh, yeah, here's my menu and it's this, and here's all the allergens and blah, and there you go, Mr. Consumer. That data doesn't exist currently. And so, what we've kind of realized, and we can come to it in a minute, but we're actually trying to build out that data layer to help restaurants to to document and give this information to consumers in an easy way for them, that also then solves the problem on the consumer side. So again, it's not a case of restaurants aren't doing this out of badness. They're doing it because, or they're not doing it because they just haven't had the infrastructure or the easy ability to do it to date.
So current apps are depending on Yelp-like reviews to maybe tell you, "Hey, the server thinks there's not gluten in this." And we just discussed, maybe, maybe not, and you're still kind of taking your chances, whereas Foodini, you're really getting granular and looking up, getting the information from the restaurants, cross-referencing that with ingredients that they're saying that they're using, and then yours goes a step further and actually employs dietitians to verify this. Tell me a little bit about that aspect of it.
Yeah, so I think the easy, and anyone who's listening who works in the world of food service will understand that, like, to do this properly, there's really kind of three buckets of data that we identify that we need. We need the menu and the modifiers that we'd normally get from the POS. We need recipes, which normally live inside inventory management or recipe management tools if they exist. And in a lot of restaurants that isn't the case, but most like chains, groups, have that information documented. And then we also need the product data. So it's the US Foods, the Cisco, we plugging into their databases to pull. Once we know ketchup is in an item, ketchup isn't good enough. We need to know, is it Heinz ketchup, or is it Dillon's ketchup, or is it Rich's ketchup? Because all of those things have, each of those brands has different ingredients and therefore different allergens. So we need all kind of three buckets of data. What we have then built is an AI solution essentially that aggregates that data and accurately builds that comprehensive menu tagged with recipes, tagged with ingredients, tagged with allergens and dietaries, which allows us to power a personalized ordering experience on the consumer side. But just finishing off the back end piece, we have a team of dietitians who have one trained the large language models and the kind of AI to be able to do what it does in an automated way. But invariably, I would say in the vast majority of onboardings we do, there's still some human required questions. Like, you'll see a crazy named menu item like Dylan's rocket ship. And it's like, well, what is, the AI often, doesn't have a data point to understand what that menu item really is. And that's where you still need the human in the loop, um, both QA, but also confirmation of anything the AI is unsure on, and also who generally interact with the restaurant to verify and make sure that we have done the job properly. So I think it's very hard to do one without the other, especially in this kind of until the training data gets to such a point that we're confident that it's like 100% of the time. Um, but ultimately, the experience that powers, once we have all the data correct and aggregated, and bearing in mind we do all the heavy lift, like we exist to do this work for restaurants so that they don't have to do it themselves. And we've had plenty of restaurants who have very little data whatsoever, and in that scenario we'll hold their hand through the process, and again, do all the heavy lifting to make this as easy as possible for them. But once we have that confirmed and verified, essentially the experience on the consumer side is we'll put a QR code on the restaurant menu or menu board. We'll put a button on the restaurant website in the menu section, allergy dietary menu. Consumer scans the QR or clicks the button, pops up a web app experience, so they don't have to download an app. It's a URL experience. They create their dietary profile, choosing from 150 different diets and allergens, so gluten-free, vegan, sesame, keto, save, and instantly the menu auto customizes to them. Here's what you can eat. Here's what you can eat with a modifier and what that modifier is. And here's what you can't eat and why, because it contains this ingredient and that ingredient. So it's a completely personalized menu experience for the consumer based on their personal dietary profile.
So, do you kind of see the future of dining out to be not I want to say all about, but about personalization because of the fact that there's so many allergies out there now that people have. Knowing what's right for me, is that where the future do you think is going with these restaurants?
We think so in a big way. Like personalization, it's funny you use the word. It's the word, it's the buzzword of today, right? Consumers, no matter where they are or what they're interacting with, expect experience that are personalized to them. And you look at everything from the food is medicine movement. You look at what's happening with Function Health and Superpower and all these companies that are letting people, test their gut and their microbiome and all their biomarkers and understand what foods are agree with them or that they should eat less of or more of or whatever. You look at what Mark Laurie and his vision at Wonder is to send out testing kits to people, allow them to understand their body, and then make tailored meal kits for them based on those results. So like this is the I really do believe the future of dining and food holistically is a much more personalized experience. And the number one thing, other than outside of like cuisine or like spicy or doesn't like is what preferences does the consumer have, but whether that's health, medical, or just preference lifestyle that dictates what they can and can't eat, and how can you as a restaurateur optimize the experience to them accordingly. So I think in the next few years we're just going to continue to see more and more and more and more drive towards personalization across the board.
So, on a scale of 0 to 100%, what percentage is this app ready for prime time? Like, where are we in the development cycle?
We're ready for prime time. We're currently so. Let me answer that in a few different ways. So there is definitely sequencing for us as a company, right? We Step one for us is working with restaurant groups to document this data for them so that they can put it in front of their customers. It's number one. Number two is we're working with a lot of the major online ordering companies to integrate this within that tech stack as well, so that this data isn't just on your physical menus and your own internal website, but it also actually plumbs into your first party ordering, your third party ordering, so that your kiosks, so that once we are the single source of truth that powers this everywhere and keeps it up to date for you for all times. That's number two for us. And then number three is we also have a consumer discovery product. So That's currently in beta in LA only. So apologies if anyone downloads it or anywhere else in the country. You're probably not going to have an option near you. But point being, for groups that are signed up with us and that we have this menu data for, we want to create a community where consumers can find who have allergies can find the restaurant suitable for them in their area through us as well, so that we're driving you more customers. That was we trialed that in Australia before we came across here. It worked great. And the beta so far in LA is going really well as well. We're just not, I would say it's not our core focus from a marketing budget perspective just yet. We're trying to just make sure we have the restaurant and data infrastructure perfect, so that when we hit go on that in a meaningful way, we have a critical mass of choice so that the consumer has a great experience as well.
So you're building the bucket of restaurants, so to speak, starting in
Exactly.
LA and then working your way
Yeah.
across the country as you grow.
Exactly. The one caveat I'll put on that, and this is where regulation has come into play, and I think this is something that for anyone who works in restaurants, it's probably worth, if you're not already across this. It's pretty hot off off the press. But to date in the US, there's been zero regulation as relates to food allergens in restaurants. The only requirement was that if you've 20 plus locations, you had to label for nutrition on your menus. That's why you'll see it at Sweetgreen and Chipotle and McDonald's all have that caloric information on all of their menus. On the 13th of October, as in 3 weeks ago, Gavin Newsom signed in California the first piece of legislation as relates to food allergies in restaurants. Um, Effective 1 July next year, any restaurant group that has 20 locations um, nationwide, where one of those locations is in California, must label their menus for the major 9 food allergens, and that's physical and digital menus. So that essentially means, Rich, that every enterprise, mid-market, or small chain in the country, other than there's obviously some that don't have Californian locations, will be required to do this exercise if they haven't already. And that's not just documented, but it's also put it in front of your consumer on the menus as well. This is, as we see it in the world we live in, the first domino to fall towards this being effective in every restaurant in the country. New York already has introduced similar legislation that is a few months behind, but that currently in draft form applies to all restaurants in New York. The senator in California has already committed to go back and make it applicable to all restaurants, not just 20 plus. And there's other states that are getting ready to launch the same blueprint of regulation as well. So this is coming, and it mirrors the approach already taken in Europe, already kind of in Australia and other places around the world. The US is behind here, and so part of our messaging, I think, to restaurants is, guys, this is coming anyway. It's, I can talk to you about some of the benefits of actually publishing this information, but we believe this is going to be standardized across the country very shortly.
Yeah. So I have to imagine for you to scale up on the restaurant side of the house, chains are probably going to be an easier thing to do, especially with this legislation you were talking about. All they have to do is just give you access to their menu, give them access to their ingredients, and you just plug it into your system and you're good to go. But let's talk about the local mom and pop restaurants, the locally owned. How much more difficult is it going to be for them? Some of them, they the legislation doesn't require them if they only have, one restaurant on the corner,
Yeah.
to list their ingredients. What are you doing for those customers or those restaurants so that they, want to be mindful of what they're serving and be part of this? What are some of the hurdles that they would need to go through to sign up? Or how easy is it for you to help them get loaded up onto your app?
No, it's a great question, and the short answer is we started working with SMB. Like, that was our bread and butter. Like, when I was learning about this world in this industry, it was the local mom and pop shops that we signed up first and handheld through this experience. So we get inbound every day from small businesses around the country who want to do this and who may have struggled to do it internally so far. So what I would say to every mom and pop shop, right, is three things. The first is, I highly recommend, whatever, put Foodini to one side. I highly recommend that every restaurant in the country should, at a minimum, do food allergy training for their staff. I think your staff still are your main line of defense against this issue. All it takes is one staff member on one day to forget that there's sesame in the hummus or whatever and serve someone who has that allergen, and you have a major problem on your hands, both legally, but also from a brand and PR perspective. So food allergy training, number one, I think should be a non negotiable. Number two is to document your food allergens. There's if you don't want for some reason to put it in front of the consumer, that's your own decision. But not having it in-house somewhere, I think, is a major risk because, again, if you don't have it documented, how can your staff answer the question? Like, you're not even giving them the the data to go back into a binder and find. You have to have that at a minimum. And then number three, and again, this is my opinion, but I think everyone should publish this to the consumer so that they can see this information and not always have to ask the staff, because asking the staff is normally where mistakes happen. 54% of mistakes that happen in restaurants around allergens happen after the staff have been notified, and it's human error stuff. So publish a single source of truth so that consumers can make an informed decision themselves. If you don't want to use a digital solution like us, do it on an allergen matrix or on a PDF or whatnot. Now, back to your question. I think the main reason that a lot of restaurants don't do what we do is because it's hard, right? They look and they're like, oh my God, I have no idea where to start. It's going to take me forever. How am I going to get it right? How am I going to keep it up to date? So we make it super simple. You send us what you have. We had restaurants who've had a menu and nothing else, and start from there. And what our tech does is it identifies the more information you send us. Don't get me wrong, the easier it is because it's a data situation ultimately. But you send us what you have. Our system ingests it. Our system identifies the gaps and the questions that need to be confirmed. We have a dietitian team who run the onboarding process. We'll send you the list of questions. We'll walk you through them. We'll, typically 1 hour onboarding session, maybe a second one if there's, if you give us very limited data and we need to go back a second time. But typically, assuming you're responsive, we can get you set up in a week or two. And again, we're doing all the heavy lifting. You're just sending us the kind of the data that you have. So I love working with mom and pop shops because, the chains are great, but ultimately I think the real value for consumer a lot of the time is in that local gem down the street on the corner that, doesn't have 500 locations. People want to discover those places and not always eating, the major chains. So we're here to make it easy for those small businesses.
Yeah, I like what you're saying about making sure your staff is trained on food allergies because your app is great. It can list something that's gluten free, but it's not going to do anything about the chef that messes up in the back and cook something gluten free on a gluten surface, right? Doesn't have a clean space to cook that food, and then you end up messing up on that end. So definitely, there's some things that a restaurant needs to do besides depending on this app. It's like, oh, we're on this app, it's gluten free. Well, you still got to train your staff too. So that's definitely something good. And I like that you mentioned. It's funny that you mentioned that LA was kind of the beta testing area of the United States because I'm in Jacksonville. As I was researching, I downloaded your app and I was like, oh no, there's nothing in Florida. And so I'm glad you told me and the audience that, hey, we're only in LA right now, but hopefully soon going coast to coast. But speaking of going beta, or launching in LA as kind of a test market, have you gotten any testimonials back that really kind of like made you realize this is worth it, either from the restaurant side or from the consumer side that maybe sent an email or maybe got some from the restaurants like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I did before having this. What are some testimonials that you can share?
100%. And just on the previous point you made, it's the consumer discovery product is beta in LA, but we're working with restaurants all over the country right now who put this
Right.
in their physical and digital environment. They don't need our app to be active discovery wise to use us. We're literally in, I'd say, nearly every state at this point. So just wanted to make that small clarification.
Thank you.
It's funny. I'll talk on the consumer side first. Like from the first day we've done this and even launched beta products out there, the feedback from the allergy community is honestly, I think, what makes us get up every day. We've had moms been at conferences with moms of kids with food allergies who've like been crying, saying like that's something that they literally can't sleep at night because they're so afraid that their teenager who's now out of their sight is out going out to dinner with their friends and they don't believe the kid is gonna like tell the staff strongly enough about the severity of their peanut allergy and like they can't keep them home but they can't protect them out and like what is out there to actually make sure that they're eating the right thing and they don't trust the staff because like myself they've been burnt so many times. So the consumer feedback is almost always overwhelmingly just really excited that there's transparency because ultimately that's what they need to protect themselves or to make informed decisions based on their lifestyle diets. And so I could give you 10,000 examples of those, but it's fairly unilaterally extremely excited. On the restaurant side, I think this is where it's most interesting because it's not always so intuitive as to why you should do this. So let's put the regulation to one side. We've been working with restaurants well before the regulation. What we see for restaurants who work with us is straight away a bump in revenue. And where that comes from is you have 173 million Americans who have a dietary requirement. Most of them do not like to dine or will not dine in a place where they don't understand or trust that there is an option that is suitable for them. So if you don't publish this information that in advance or when they first get there, it gives them confidence that there's something for them to eat. Not only do you lose them as a customer, you lose their friends, you lose their family, you lose their coworkers. Now I can't put the Christmas dinner there because Dylan the celiac doesn't have an option that he can eat there. We call it the veto vote. And so not only is it a revenue loss for all the restaurants who don't do it, but it's such a major revenue opportunity for the restaurants who do it to have a competitive edge against, your local competition. So that's number one. Oh, and the other point on that is there is no one more loyal than a food allergy customer because they find it so hard to find places that accommodate to them
That's right.
that once they do, they will go back again and again and again. So that's the first big thing. Then we also see on average a 60% reduction in the number of questions being asked to staff. So saving on labor costs, moving the line quicker, and accordingly as well, by now having the single source of truth and not depending on the employee always to be the defensive line, a massive reduction in mistakes and incidences, which protects you from a PR perspective, a legal perspective, a brand perspective, which is obviously pretty critical. And then the last major one I'll put here, because there's a few others, is data. We can also tell a restaurant last month in X location, you had 1,000 dietary profiles created. 40% were gluten-free, 25% were vegan, 10% were keto. You have no keto-friendly options on your menu. If you swapped out this one ingredient and these 6 items, they would all become keto-friendly. That could drive your bottom line by X or Y. So there's a menu optimization point and then also a marketing point, because now you also understand your consumer and what dietary profiles they have, and you can kind of react accordingly. So the benefits to restaurants and to anyone in the food service industry that we're working with, frankly, is I think very compelling. Any of those segments as a standalone, I think, is compelling. But when you combine them all together, I think it gets to the bracket of no-brainer.
So beyond just having your menu optimized for allergens, but also a consultative approach of, hey, switch out this ingredient and you're going to be serving a lot more people. That's amazing.
Exactly, because that's the problem with, you'll see some menus that currently tag for allergens, right? They'll have, generally it's gluten-free, vegan, and vegetarian. I've seen very few that go beyond that. Maybe you'll get a dairy-free. But even at that, it's at the menu item level. So that salad that is not gluten-free could have been gluten-free without the croutons. But, and maybe you as a restaurant can remove those croutons and you're happy to do that. Maybe you're not, but maybe you are. And if you are, we make it clear because we tag at that ingredient level. We can make it clear that there's a modification available to this dish, which will make it suitable for your dietary profile. And that's possible only because we tag 4 layers deep, not at the top menu item level.
Wow. So I want to get to the tech side or the technological side of this app. AI advancing as quickly as it has in the last even few years, 4 or 5 years. How much more difficult would it have been to launch Foodini without AI technology being where it is today?
A lot more difficult. Yeah, a lot more
Like Stone
difficult.
Age is difficult, like Excel spreadsheet
Like,
difficult?
I think just slow difficult. Like when we started, and because you're learning your trade and you're figuring out how it needs to work. We were doing everything manually, and we were getting it right, but it was taking a long time. And so if you think about a million restaurants in America, if we were to work with all of them, it would have taken us 10 million years, right?
Mm.
So it just wouldn't have been scalable. And so I think what the AI did for us and the large language models that we trained is it allowed us to take time to train these large language models on what they needed to do, which allowed us to process data in an instant and identify the gaps that we were previously taking us days to do manually, and then make sure that the dietitians were spending their time focusing on the gaps and the issues and the questions versus all of the data entry and basic data processing, which ultimately is just repeatable after a point in time, right? And so I think what it's done for us is it's made us scalable. it's made us more accurate because, human error is pertinent everywhere. Now, not only do we've QA obviously with our registered dietitian team, but we have AIs running tests on AIs, running tests on AIs to make sure that there is literally no mistakes anywhere in the infrastructure at all times. So um, it honestly, it completely changed the game for us in terms of how we can scale this business, and how we can do it accurately and confidently. Noting trust and accuracy is such a key component of what we do as a company and as a brand.
Yeah. So do you think AI is just going to embed itself more in the food industry? And in what ways, broadly speaking, do you see AI kind of revolutionizing the way we eat out?
Well, look, just look at what happened. Was it last week or the week before, where OpenAI announced the partnership with DoorDash and a number of those
Yeah.
other ordering companies? You're like, very shortly, you're going to type into ChatGPT, order me a chicken burger on DoorDash, and it's just gonna, it's all the same as Etsy, same as a lot of the e-commerce stores. Like it's coming fast. Like people, a lot of the young kids now, a lot of people still default to Google. A lot of the teenagers in Gen Z go to ChatGPT or an equivalent in the same way the older generation are going to Google. And I know that's changing, and a lot of the older generation are also now using ChatGPT and the like, as the first. But um, I think it's changing the tech landscape holistically. I think you look at, we go to a lot of restaurant tech conferences and see a lot of the companies working in other segments as well. And it's coming everywhere. Like, how can it not? You've voice AI is becoming big, customer service AI. I think AI is going to be used a lot more for predictive and personalization, back to what we were saying earlier, like learning about Dylan, the consumer. Okay, he's gluten free. Okay, he keeps ordering these type of products from these type of stores. He's now on vacation in Jacksonville. Like, I think the Uber Eats and DoorDashes of the world are going to get to a point where they can hone right in on what Dylan, the consumer, is most likely going to want to order and from where, and that's going to be the first tile at the top of my search feed, and it's going to be right more times than not as well. Like, these are the kind of things, as these big companies keep gathering more and more data on the consumer, I think the AI is going to be able to really, really allow them to hyper personalize the experience. And I think that's what the consumer wants as well, to be frank. But it's also going to drive a lot of more revenue for these big companies as well.
So pretty soon it's going to be like, "Hey Siri, order me some food," and it's going to respond with your usual, and you're going to say, "Sure," and it's just at your
Yeah.
door.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally. I really do think we're a lot closer to that than most people think.
That's amazing. So, is there a dream restaurant that currently isn't on your platform that you really want to get? If you want to name names, you can. If you don't, that's all right. But is there a dream restaurant? Because I'm sure you eat out a lot because of the nature of your business. But is there a dream restaurant out there that you're like, man, I really want to get them on my platform?
It's a great question. Oh, it's a tough one because we're talking to so many big restaurant groups at the moment, Rich. I'm afraid if I name one, the others I might hurt the others' feelings. I think hmm, there's so many great brands out there that I think are such a good fit for our consumer base, from the Sweet Greens and Cavas and Chipotle's of the world to the Mediocina Farms and the Bluestone Lanes, and like a lot of mid-market brands as well. We're working with great clients like Sweetfin at the moment, and Kinton Ramen, and a lot of Marriott hotels, and there's so many great brands that were trailblazers here in terms of like understanding the need for this pre-compliance and just thinking this is the right thing to do. So I think they deserve the bigger shout out. Bluestone Lane is one I'd love to get up and running. They've about 60 odd locations. We've been talking to them for a while. I think it resonates a lot with their brand, and they're very health focused. And they've an amazing product, both in terms of their coffee, but also all of their cafe offerings. So I'm very keen to get them, and we're very close. So I'm very keen to get them up and running shortly, because I think they're a really good fit for us from a brand perspective.
Cool. I'll tag them in some social stuff. Maybe that'll get you over the finish line.
Do exactly, that'd be great.
So, one couple of last questions here. So, I'm a restaurant. I want to learn more about your platform. I want to see what it can do for me. How do I get in contact with you? Are you on socials? What's the website? What do I need to do?
Sure. So Foodini, Foodini.co is our website. On there, there's a lot more information about the process and how we work. There's also a form that you can complete there that goes straight to our team, and we get back to you pretty quickly to kind of set up an initial call, or just get you up and running. If you already have your data, you can put it straight into kind of a process we have already built into the website. That's one. Two, LinkedIn is always a good place to get me, Dylan McDonnell, or you can probably track me down through the Foodini page as well. And then three, my email is Dylan that's DYLAN at getfoodini, GETFOODINI.com. And always happy to speak to anyone from a restaurant that's interested or has a question, or even that wants to just learn more about the space. Maybe they want an introduction to a company that does food allergy training or something like that. It doesn't always have to be to work directly with us. I'm just such a huge advocate for this whole space holistically. I'll point you always in the direction of whatever I think is the best fit for you, which sometimes might not be us for some reason. Um, and equally consumers, like if there's any people out there who have an allergy or has it in their family, and maybe they want to check out the app on the app store, even though there's not areas in their location, just to see it and understand how it does work and will work for them in the future. Love getting feedback, love hearing thoughts, love hearing suggestions. We work with the community very closely all the time, so I love collaborating with anyone who's passionate about the space.
Dylan, thank you so much for being on the podcast talking about food and technology. I mean, it's amazing how far technology has gotten in the past few years, even in the food space. We have restaurants that make food by using robots, and now we have this that can help customers and restaurants avoid liability and avoid health issues with allergies. And I think you're doing a great thing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And just a reminder, everybody, just to follow me on socials at Eat Your Content and at Rich Herrera on all your social media platforms, and check out Foodini. It's only in LA right now, but hopefully it'll be coming out soon. And check out their website to stay in tune of when things are going to be popping up in different cities across the country, hopefully in the future. Dylan, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. Really enjoyed the chat.
Thanks for listening to Eat Your Content. If you like what you hear, please consider supporting the podcast through my merch store on TeePublic. Get great quality items like t-shirts, hats, mugs, and more, all sporting the vibrant Eat Your Content logo. Go to teepublic.com/user/eatyourcontent for more great items, and thanks for your support.